In the Cold War, intelligence agencies spent billions of dollars trying to see what the enemy wanted to keep hidden. They built satellites, they intercepted signals, they trained men and women to disappear into foreign societies. Yet sometimes the most effective exposure did not come from advanced technology. It came from routine. This story is not about a dramatic chase, or a last-second escape, or a heroic spy sacrificing everything for his country. It is about a man who lived so carefully, so predictably, that his life began to leave a trail made of grocery receipts. Act 1. The Man No One Looked At. In a quiet American suburb during the late 1970s, there lived a man who was invisible in the most effective way. He was not poor, he was not wealthy, he did not complain, he did not stand out. He lived with his family in a modest home, kept his lawn trimmed, and drove a car that blended into every parking lot it entered. His neighbors knew his face, but not his thoughts. His co-workers knew his reliability, but not his history. And every Thursday evening, without fail, he went grocery shopping. Same store, same time, same entrance. To anyone watching casually, this looked like stability. To someone trained in counterintelligence, it would eventually look like dependence. The grocery store was part of a regional chain. Bright fluorescent lights, narrow aisles, metal carts rattling against worn tile. Nothing about it was special, and yet, week after week, the same man appeared. He arrived within the same 10-minute window. He followed nearly the same path through the aisles. He placed the same categories of items into his basket: milk, bread, canned goods, dry foods, batteries. Not every time, but often enough. He never shopped impulsively. He never lingered. He never adjusted for holidays, visitors, or seasons. The rhythm of his shopping did not reflect a household adapting to life. It reflected a system maintaining equilibrium. No one noticed this at first, because most people don't notice patterns unless they are paid to. In the late 1970s, grocery stores began holding onto transaction records more carefully. Shrinkage, inventory control, customer disputes. Receipts were logged, filed, and sometimes reviewed. During a routine inventory reconciliation, an employee noticed a minor discrepancy. Nothing alarming, just repetition. One customer's receipts appeared again and again, almost identical in structure. The quantities rarely changed. The timing barely shifted. The combinations repeated too precisely. Families grow, appetites fluctuate, habits drift. This man's did not. The employee flagged it as unusual, not suspicious. But once documented, the pattern existed. And once a pattern exists, it can travel. The report moved quietly through administrative channels. It was never labeled espionage. It was never treated as urgent. Eventually, it arrived at a federal office whose job was to notice things others dismissed. An FBI analyst read the report and paused, not because it proved anything, but because it reminded him of something else. During the Cold War, the FBI was not just looking for secrets. They were looking for repetition. Illegal KGB residents, agents living without diplomatic cover, survived by blending in perfectly. And that was exactly where many of them failed. Because blending in meant copying normal behavior, not evolving with it. The FBI did not act. They observed. Surveillance began slowly. The man was followed from a distance. His schedule was mapped. His garbage was monitored. Nothing illegal was found. But something was missing. There was no randomness. His trash contained carefully folded receipts, never crumpled, never torn. He saved them, not for accounting, for reference. Agents began comparing grocery timestamps with other data, shortwave radio activity, unidentified signal bursts, environmental interference logs. At first, there was no match. Then one week there was. A radio transmission appeared within minutes of his usual grocery return time. Coincidence, until it happened again. Weeks passed. The FBI did not intervene. They waited for the man to break his own pattern. And eventually he did. One Thursday, he did not go to the grocery store. Instead, an unusual transmission occurred earlier than expected. The following week, he returned, but his purchases changed slightly. Extra batteries, different quantities, adjustment behavior. To an ordinary observer, this meant nothing. To counterintelligence officers, it meant everything. The man was compensating, which meant his routine was operational, not personal. With probable cause established, surveillance intensified. Agents observed brief, isolated actions, curtains drawn at unusual hours, short periods of radio silence, then bursts of activity. When the arrest finally came, it was quiet. No spectacle, no resistance. Inside the home, the evidence was undeniable. Radio equipment concealed behind walls, encrypted notebooks hidden in mundane objects, false identification documents, and stacked neatly in a drawer, grocery receipts, years of them. A chronological record of a life designed not to attract attention, but unable to escape itself. The family learned the truth all at once. There was no gradual understanding, no preparation. The man they thought they knew ceased to exist. His wife was cleared of involvement. His children were relocated. Their names changed. The neighbors never saw him again. Officially, very little happened. Unofficially, everything ended. Years later, the man was exchanged quietly. No press conference, no acknowledgement. Another file closed. Another life erased from public record. The grocery store remained open. The receipts kept printing, closing, the Cold War's smallest weapon. The Cold War was not only fought with missiles and ideology, it was fought with patience, with observation, with waiting long enough for people to expose themselves. The KGB trained its agents to disappear into society. What they could not train them to do was change like a human being. And in the end, it was not betrayal that destroyed this man. It was habit, because in a world built on secrecy, even a grocery receipt could be fatal.